Welcome back to another episode on my series on INFJ struggles. So today we're going to discuss existential crises. We're going to go over what is an existential crisis. Oh my gosh, I'm going to have so much trouble in this video saying that over and over again. We're going to go over why INFJs in particular tend to struggle with them, and then how INFJs can address this tendency to go into an existential crisis. So what is an existential crisis? It is an internal crisis in which someone is fretting over the concept of existence, the meaning of life, one's life purpose, those types of grand overarching things. And along with an existential crisis can come feelings of being overwhelmed, feelings of anxiety, angst, depression, hopelessness, because who has a good answer to those questions about life's purpose, right? So why do INFJs tend to suffer existential crises seemingly more than the average person, whereas others tend not to get bothered by these same questions and are able to just go about their everyday lives enjoying what each new day has to offer? So it has to do with a combination of our NI and TI. So our first function is introverted intuition, or NI. It wants to be able to look at information and make connections between all of that information and look at it all like one big picture and see how everything is interrelated. And NI always asks, what does the sum of all of this information mean? Our introverted thinking, TI, wants to figure out on a deeper level how and why everything works. So we have two introverted cognitive functions that tend to want to just know everything and understand everything and just want to figure out what all of it means. So this is why whenever an INFJ comes across something that sparks their interest, like maybe we read a cool fun little fact under one of those little Snapple juice bottle lids, or someone told us something like, I just watched a movie about the Italian mafia. Whenever we come across something that sparks our interest, we can tend to just become obsessed with doing research on that thing. We will become fixated on this topic and we will just want to learn as much about it as possible, and we will spend hours upon hours just reading and researching everything that we can find on this topic. This is the reason why INFJs are bookworms. This is the reason why we love documentaries. We just want to be able to know as much about this topic as we can and paint a good picture of what this topic looks like. So my point is that the INFJ's combination of their NI and TI makes the INFJ just want the bigger picture, the final analysis, the conclusion. So we do this with information, but we also tend to have the same approach with life in general. This is why instead of just taking life day by day and just enjoying the present moment, INFJs tend to just want to know, what does all of this mean? What does it mean for my life? Where is my life headed? And then in addition to wanting to know where all of this is going, our NI wants to make sure that we're always giving slow, consistent effort towards a goal or a single purpose. But some days we wake up and we don't feel like doing anything, but we know that we should be doing something because what we do today is going to contribute to that greater purpose, whatever it may be. But what if we feel tired today and we don't feel like working towards the greater purpose? And then we're like, what the hell is the greater purpose anyway? We don't know. And we also don't feel like being purposeful today. So does that mean that we're bad people? Does that mean that we're wasting our lives? Always wanting to bear in mind that there's a greater purpose that we're looking for, but also knowing that that purpose is not so easily found, and fearing that maybe there is no greater purpose and maybe existence is just meaningless. This drives us crazy, because if we don't have a purpose, then how do we know in which direction we need to go? What if we just go with the flow and we weren't looking at where we were going, and then we fall into destruction? Or what if we're going with the flow and then we realize that there's something that we want and that we should have been working towards that all along, and then we missed the opportunity because we didn't know that we were supposed to be looking for it? So these are all of the musings surrounding an existential crisis, and why INFJs in particular tend to suffer them, and why we tend to have a little gray cloud that follows us around. All of these frets may or may not just be in the INFJ's head. We may never know. So the INFJ will just continue to live in a slight heightened state of anxiety and existentialism. So if you're anything like me, you will grow up just having always wondered what's wrong with you, and wondering why everyone else is just so happy and enjoying life while you're such a sap. And maybe you might have even had trouble putting your finger on what it was that was causing you this persistent internal struggle. And maybe you felt ungrateful because you couldn't just be happy for what you had, and you always had to question everything. And maybe you felt alienated because you couldn't figure out for lack of a better term, what your problem was. But as always, I like to end my video on a lighter note. So as far as this tendency towards existential crises, as an INFJ goes, I don't have a one-size-fits-all solution, because you will have to find what works for you. But I can think of 4 ways in which someone can reduce their tendency to fall into an existential crisis, or 4 things that we can keep in mind when in the midst of an existential crisis. So the first thing is that some people turn to religion to give them principles by which to live, and they feel like if they can measure themselves up to these principles, then they can gauge whether or not they're doing the right things in life. So finding religion can really save someone and give them a sense of purpose and make life have a sense of meaning. And then some people turn to spirituality and try to just trust that there is a greater force out there that will make the pieces fall where they are meant to fall, and that we are just a small cog in this big machine called life, and that those greater forces will bring us to where we need to be when the time is right. So turning to these types of faiths like religion and spirituality may work for some, but not for others. So this leads me to my next point. I personally believe that the way to reduce existentialism for the INFJ is to, first of all, understand that by nature INFJs cannot be stagnant, or else we will fall into an existential crisis. INFJs thrive on being productive or progressive towards something, whether it's something big or something small. It makes us feel purposeful and makes us feel useful, and minimizes the chances of us feeling useless or disconnected. And this is what we crave as INFJs. So with that being said, I believe that in order to avoid falling into existential crises, INFJs need to use our first cognitive function, our introverted intuition, to support our secondary function, our extroverted feeling, and do good things for the world while simultaneously giving ourselves a niche or a purpose. Niche. So introverted intuition is able to help us to see the most optimal outcome, the best case scenario, or the best in every situation, or the greatest strengths of a person. So we can really use this perceptive insight to inspire our fellow man. We can really help people to see the best versions of themselves. And P.S., this is the reason why INFJs make great counselors or do great in fields where we can be of service to others. So we can see really good visions for the future of our company or our organization and lead the charge in that direction. And because INFJs have very strong introverted intuition, and we are extremely compelled by our introverted intuition visions, we can speak very passionately about what it is that we want to achieve, and people will feel the passion in our speech and feel really willing and ready to get on board with whatever it is that we're preaching. And this is why some of the best known INFJs in history are people who inspired masses and brought about revolutionary change that's impacts are still felt even to today. So people like Jesus Christ, Martin Luther King Jr. I really feel like when INFJs are starting to feel like we're losing our way in life, the best thing that we could do is to help others and help them be their best, to bring out the best in them and to bring about positive change to mankind. That's not to say that you take the focus off of yourself and just worry about other people. You should definitely work on yourself and make sure that you like yourself as a person. But I'm just saying that for INFJs, you can really find yourself in helping others. So another thing that we INFJs can do when caught in this grip of an existential crisis is we can extrovert ourselves, not only in the form of helping our fellow man like I had mentioned in my previous point, but we can extrovert ourselves into the physical world. So what I mean is when we are so caught in this grip of what is the meaning of life, which is essentially the NITI loop, instead of looking for those grand overarching themes of life, look for the small details of life that can be appreciated. So find an activity that will make you less worried about what's at the end of the tunnel and that will make you focus on what's right there in front of you in the present moment. So if you don't want to take the route of religion or spirituality or faith to pacify this tendency towards existentialism, then you may have to accept that maybe there is no answer for existentialism. So that would therefore mean that life is merely meant to just be enjoyed. So in order to stop worrying about the grand overarching theme of life, you can do things like go on a hike and enjoy the outdoors and the scenery and take time to just be grateful for the beauty in that moment, even if it serves no grand purpose other than to just be beautiful. You can do some sort of hobby like photography or crafting and just enjoy the process and take the time to admire what significant things can be created by your own two hands. You can do these small mundane tasks to get you out of that zoomed out mode and zoomed in on all of these beautiful things that may otherwise get missed if you just spent all of your time focusing on the grander scheme of things in that zoomed out mode. Watch my video called 5 Easy Extroverted Sensing Activities for INFJs and INTJs if you want to learn about some other easy ideas on activities to help you extrovert yourself into the physical world. So I hope that this video was uplifting to you INFJs. Let me know in the comments how it sat with you. Let me know your experiences with existential crises and how you manage them. And I will see you in my next video.